An average night in Brooklyn sounds out across the rooftops of the Big Apple. Amidst the bright lights, colorful noises, and ample scents wafting out of a food truck, a young man named Miles Morales walks the streets with his friends. Although the city of New York knows Miles by another name, the ultimate Spider-Man, of course. Taking in the sights and the sounds with his friends, a sudden shock raining up his spine tells Miles that something is not quite right. Spider sense. Where's the threat? His mind jumps into high alert at the sudden warning. His eyes scan his surroundings for anything out of the ordinary. After a few seconds, the feeling passes. His friend Tiana notices Miles' sudden shift in mood and confronts him about it. Yeah, just thought it's nothing, Miles lies to her. Look, we ain't doing that keep everything inside thing again, Tiana tells him. Spill it. Miles admits that he's been worried about his powers ever since Carnage tore through the city, nearly decimating everything. Oh, Miles, I don't like sounding like a broken record, but you can't keep the stuff bottled up forever, Tiana offers, taking Miles' hand to comfort him. Eventually, Tiana convinces Miles to rejoin the party and the group continues working their way through the street fair. Miles really comes out of his shell while the group dances to a local band. How you feeling? Tina whispers to Miles amidst the crowd. Good. Could be better. He smiles back. Seconds later, the two are entwined in a kiss amongst the dancers and chaos. Miles wonders how the night could get any better. Close by, an office building stands abandoned, the perfect score for a group of professional thieves who work their way into the facility with surgical precision, shooting down drones, breaking through doors, and hacking the building's security systems with alarming ease. Inside, the burglars hit the jackpot. Abandoned high-tech weaponry ripe for the taking. This it? One asks, approaching the vault door. Yeah. The prototype should be inside. Or you can mess around with folks' memories. We'll have it open in 10. But no sooner had the thieves started breathing easier that one of their men was hoisted into the rafters by some unseen force. Contact! 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 The leader began screaming to his men. Can't see a damn thing! Who's got a visual? Another asked, desperation heavy in his panicked voice. As the group begins to flee, one unlucky thief trips on one of the downed drones. No! Wait! Come back! He yells to the rest of the crew as he watches them sprint by him towards the door. Realizing no help was coming his way, the man steeled himself for a fight. Come and get me, he called into the darkness. I said come and get it. Shivers went down the man's spine as something in the shadows whispered back. Well now, if you wanted to say hello, the voice said as wrinkled claws reached out and gripped the man's face. I figured we should do it face to face. The horrifying visage of the Hobgoblin emerged from the night, sending waves of heat and fire into the thief's head as his claws dug into his scalp. Now don't go dying on me too fast, he cackled as the man at his mercy screamed in pain and abject terror. Back at the street party, Miles and his friends are already exhausted from a long night out, not to mention stuff from all the food truck grub. I can barely walk, Miles moaned as he and Tiana set off for the nearest bodega. So, wanna keep talking? Tiana asked. How long's your spidey sense been acting up? Miles looked away. I don't know, not too long. It felt more like a buildup of other things, like losing my temper and blowing up on folks, he told her. Tiana recommended that Miles consider seeing a therapist to talk about his inner turmoil. I guess I just never really thought I could talk to anyone because of the, hero stuff, he said. But last time with Carnage, it was different. Tiana looked at Miles softly. Go on, tell me, she encouraged him. Images of his fight with the serial killer symbiote flashed through his mind as Miles recounted the battle. I got hurt bad. Real bad, he admitted to Tiana. And I didn't think I was gonna make it, T. Miles looked away again. If it wasn't for Iron Man, I don't think I would've. And losing that house just kinda, broke me. All of a sudden, Miles' spider sense once again began blaring louder than before. Another fake out? Tiana asked, seeing Miles tense up. T, please tell me you brought your suit. Of course. Why? She asked him. Cause I think this might be the real deal, Miles told her. Inside the warehouse, the Hobgoblin was toying with his food. Half dead, the captured thief lay on the ground, barely able to move. As the goblin worked away on some strange contraption, the thief managed to find the strength to reach his computer. Taking you with me, freak, he mumbled as he re-engaged the security that his team had shut down. Instantly, the drones fluttered to life and began firing deadly lasers through the air at the Hobgoblin. He only laughed. It really is the small things in life, the goblin called through the air as he let loose a bombardment of pumpkin bombs. The explosion rumbled the foundations of the building. Hurtling out of the warehouse, the Hobgoblin nearly collided with both Miles and Tiana as they followed Miles' senses towards danger. Who the hell is this guy? Tiana called out as Miles dove to protect her from the blast. Hobgoblin! Spider-Man yelled as he saw the crazed murderer zoom out of the doomed warehouse. Hobgoblin caught sight of the two heroes as well, and his smile twisted even further into a warped grin.
Spider-Man, what a lucky day.
Hobby cackled into the night. Hobgoblin wasted no time, driving a punch straight towards Miles that he just barely managed to duck away from.
Haven't made this Spidey bleed in a while. I look forward to it,
the goblin howled. There are two of us, creep, Tiana yelled as she plummeted from the skies, using her suit's wings to stay above the goblin and attack from the skies.
And you brought a new vulture with you too?
Hobby yelled. It's Starling, wacko, Tiana corrected him, sending the goblin plummeting into the cold concrete below. Miles glanced around at the crowded streets around them. Starling, we can't do this out here. Too many people could get hurt, he told Tiana. I'm open to pitches, man, she called back, trying to keep the goblin at arm's length. Spidey whipped a web onto Hobgoblin's back and hurled the man back into the warehouse through a gaping hole in the wall.
You're not the only one with some help,
the goblin called out as the glider slammed into Miles's back, catching him completely off guard. Damn it, Spidey sense is still off, he thought as his shoulders cracked under the blow.
You're only prolonging this,
the goblin screamed as he boarded his glider once again and took off into the rafters. It was at this moment that Spidey and Starling realized precisely what kind of warehouse they had found themselves in. Experimental tech, metagenetic manipulation, interdimensional travel, Miles listed off as he glanced around. If he's after their tech, but Starling cut him off. Looks like we're locked in here with this clown, she said. The Hobgoblin's screech sounded off the walls of the warehouse as he hurtled back towards the two young heroes.
I can realize its true potential,
Gobby assured them, his eyes darting to all the fancy weaponry on the walls. Pumpkin bombs flew from his hands as Miles and Tiana just barely managed to twist out of the explosive's way. But Hobgoblin was relentless in his attack, keeping Spidey and Starling on the back foot as he flew across the facility, lobbing bomb after bomb at the heroes.
Can't have any loose ends, Spider, but know you're dying for a greater cause.
Miles and Tiana were overwhelmed. There's too many! Gotta separate! Starling yelled to Miles, fear starting to enter her voice. Before Miles could respond, a well-placed pumpkin bomb collided with Tiana mid-flight, sending her spiraling to the ground. Starling! Miles began to scream before a bomb caught him square in the chest as well. The two heroes went flying across the laboratory, and before either could collect themselves, the foundations of the warehouse began crumbling in on themselves, bringing the entire building down with them. Starling was the first to find her feet. Crouching amidst the wreckage, Tiana weakly called to Miles. Spider-Man, you there? She asked weakly. The wreckage was still creaking dangerously as Starling began easing her way through the rubble. Gotta find Miles and get the hell out of here, she told herself as her eyes narrowed with determination. But a quiet rattling caught her ear before Tiana could find Miles. She whipped around as the noise grew closer, but ultimately it was too late. Miles, on the other hand, was faring no better. Injured, alone, and struggling to stay upright, Miles wished desperately that his spider sense would come back online. The slightest creak sounded and Miles instinctively hurled webs towards the noise, only to be met with a damaged drone he had webbed to the wall. Come on, Miles, pull it together, boy, he thought to himself as he made his way through the ruined warehouse. I have to get my spidey sense worked out, because there's no telling what's out there waiting for me, he recognized. Little did he know, standing behind him was the Hobgoblin himself, with a bomb raised ready to take Miles out for good. At the last possible moment, Miles saw Hobgoblin's reflection on a broken screen. He whipped around, readying his venom shock to take the goblin out with one blow. It's okay. I'm still, Miles started. Faster? His thoughts choked in his head as the Hobgoblin's claw caught his hand in midair, bringing Miles just inches from the madman's fangs.
You're really starting to set yourself apart from the other Spidey, huh?
Hobgoblin taunted. Gotta keep things fresh, you know? Miles quipped back, not showing any hint of fear. That is, until the goblin's lips began to curl into a bone-chattering grin. The goblin's claw snatched up Miles by his skull, but Miles was ready this time. Spidey took the goblin by the arm and hurled him over his head, slamming him down on the concrete hard. Flipping backwards, Spidey narrowly missed the goblin's glider as he tried to barrel into him once more.
Must complete my mission. The voice, her voice, compels me,
the goblin began muttering. The voice? Yeah, all sounds very normal, Miles told him, once again swinging through the facility, dodging pumpkin bombs at every turn. Executing a perfect 180 swing, Miles managed to get the jump on Hob by kicking a loose sign towards him. The force of the blow struck the goblin from his glider. Both Spiderman and the Hobgoblin wound up their fists, unleashing a brutal amount of energy when their punches met in the middle. The Hobgoblin managed to catch Spidey's fist, but both combatants got some solid hits in as they battled it out.
You're an interesting sort. I'm going to kill you for getting in my way.
The Goblin seethed at Spidey through gritted teeth. Starling whirled around. "Who's there?" she demanded. From the smoke and ash, a strange robot wheeled its way towards Tiana.
"Hello, human. I'm Gary,"
it said.
"How may I be of assistance?"
"You serious?" Tiana asked the bot, who explained that its primary directive was to assist humans in any and all tasks.
"Oh dear. It appears a piece of Beyond Incorporated property has been taken. Do you know anything about this, human starling?"
Gary asked. "Nah," Tiana told it. "But if you show me how to get the hell out of here, I can take you to the guy who does," she promised. While Starling and Gary began shoveling themselves out of the collapsed room they had been trapped in, Miles was still doing his absolute best to keep Hobgoblin at bay. Using his Venom Blast to create a sword for himself, Spidey was able to keep a little distance from him and the villain trying to rip his head off.
This is one hell of a fighting spirit,
the Goblin said, impressed. But then a claw struck out and caught Miles by the back of the neck.
Let me show you how you lack polish,
the Goblin roared, bringing Miles forward into a brutal knee, following it up by smashing his fist against Miles' skull.
You also lack discipline,
the Goblin yelled as Miles wobbled, threatening to fall to the floor. But Spider-Man bounced back instantly, turning on a dime and using his webs to launch his feet back towards the Goblin's jawline. All your talk of voices and signs makes me think you might not even know why you're really here, Miles said aloud, starting to put together the pieces. This infuriated the Goblin.
Momentary confusion, nothing more.
Miles managed to web the Goblin up, but was unable to keep a pumpkin bomb from activating in the palm of his hand.
I'm a certified death dealer,
the Goblin said as he activated his explosive.
I've peered into the abyss, and the only thing I saw was a job well done.
Miles's eyes opened in horror as he knew there was no time to get free of the blast. Both men were thrown back by the bomb as it exploded. The Goblin cackled as he flew across the lab.
You feel that? That's the walls closing in, kiddo.
He cackled as he slammed into a nearby wall. Miles was slower to rise, and for a moment it looked like the Hobgoblin had Spidey at his mercy. At the last moment, Starling re-entered the battle, clocking the Goblin over the head before he could reach Miles and finish the job. Tiana set Gary on the Goblin, giving her time to tend to Miles, who was badly hurt at this point. "Shake it off and let's get this guy out of your hair. You good?" she asked. "Yeah, we got this," Miles said, trying to assure himself. "Yeah, we do," Starling agreed. Together, the two heroes once more dove into battle against the Goblin, working around Gary to try to expose Hobbs' weak points. "I got the bombs!" Miles yelled as he webbed up the Goblin's remaining stash of pumpkins. "I got him!" Starling called back as she landed on Hob with her full force, sending him buckling through the steel and concrete. Hobgoblin smashed into the machine he'd been working on, and for once, his cold smile left his face.
No! The prototype!
He screamed.
I'm growing tired of this spider.
He glared at Miles. "Then you're really gonna hate this!" Miles called back. Starling caught Spider-Man's web and hurled him feet first at Hob. Spidey brutally collided with the Goblin, the force of his kick breaking the man's ribs on impact. The Goblin fell to his knees and began sputtering.
Can't leave without it,
Hobby whispered as he crawled across the cracked floor. "That thing lets you rewrite minds on a whim," Starling told him. "We ain't letting you out of here with it." Miles was on the verge of unconsciousness but managed to back up his partner. "What she said," he panted.
Won't keep me from the real fight,
the Goblin murmured from the floor. "What fight, you maniac?" Miles demanded. Suddenly, the Hobgoblin's smile crept back onto his face.
Fools, you'll see soon enough,
he roared as he whirled around. "You're crazy." Miles started as he shot webs towards Hob, but instantly realized he'd only managed to web the pumpkin bombs Hob had activated to his own claws. "Move!" Starling screamed as she grabbed Miles' suit and dashed away from the explosives. Miles' life flashed before his eyes, and his feet were singed by the cascading fire as the entire building detonated. But by a matter of inches, Starling managed to keep Miles from sudden death. "Can't believe you spider people deal with these weirdos so much," Starling said as she sat and caught her breath. Off to the side, the head of Gary slowly shut down as catastrophic damage overtook the machine. "Live to fight another day, right, Spider-Man?" "Spider-Man?" Starling's eyes whipped around. She scanned the wreckage, horrified as Spidey was still nowhere to be seen. "Miles?" Tiana yelled into the warehouse. Finally, she saw him, kneeling on the ground, tears streaming down his face. Starling rushed to his side. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Miles didn't respond right away.
I don't know, he admitted. What's wrong with me? What's going on? My spider sense not working almost got us both killed. Tiana took Miles's head in her hands. It's okay, babe, she consoled him. Just tell me what you need. Miles lowered his head as Tiana wiped his tears off his cheeks. Help, T. I think I really need help. Traumatic scenes from Miles's recent past began flashing through his mind once more. It's just, so much has happened to me, to us, it's all hitting me. Starling helped Spider-Man to his feet. It's okay, she promised him. We'll get you some help. But let's do it away from all this. Sound good? Miles chuckled as he looked around at the wreckage and rubble around him. Yeah, sounds good, he said, starting to calm himself down as sirens in the distance began coming into focus. Sirens sound pretty close. Don't think we're gonna have time to look for that goblin guy, Starling told him. Yeah, and if Agent Gao or any of those Cape Killers are with him, then there's no way we're not gonna be brought up on vigilante charges. We def should find someplace quieter. Together, Spider-Man and Starling flew off into the city, away from the site of their near demise. When Tiana and Miles finally made it to a reasonable distance away from the collapsed building, silence overtook them as they sat beside one another. Starling eventually broke the silence. You can talk. What's up? She said calmly. Miles was finally ready to open up completely. I guess it's my spidey sense. It's like it thinks there's danger everywhere, even inside. I don't know what to do, but I need to get it under control. I need to get me under control, Spidey told her. Tiana looked over at Miles and smiled. I think between us, Misty, or some other super person in the city, we can find someone suited to handle your stuff, she assures Miles. I like that. And you're right. I know I can. Just scary starting that process, I guess, he said. Tiana leaned in to rest on Miles' shoulder, showing him that she was there for him no matter what. Yeah, well, fighting a psycho on a glider with pumpkin bombs wasn't exactly easy work, you know, she said, drawing a laugh from both of them. Across town, a smoking glider careens through the air, crashing into the side of an abandoned apartment building.
I see it now. That burning in the back of my brain was a voice.
Hobgoblin's diseased mind races as he crashes through the window and struggles to stand. His blood stains the floor as he manages to reach his feet. In his hands, a machine, the same one he'd spent so long coveting but was unclear why. Hobgoblin stared down at the metal box as if it was his salvation.
A last ember of a flame, fighting for its freedom.
His mind calls out. As he adorns the device to his head, the man's warped memory comes racing back to his brain.
My old queen,
he speaks aloud. The face of his old master burned clear into his mind once more. Miles Morales has been through some crazy things. Check out that time Carnage tortured him.